Hello and welcome to Sweetbriar Cottage. If you're new here, this is Janice, and I'm outside to give you a little introduction to my craft room, so I can kind of explain. I'm going to show you the finished work I've done over the last few weeks. Actually a long time if you've seen my other videos. It's been a work in progress to finish this room, and I didn't even intend to do really what I did the last few weeks until something switched in my brain and I thought, wait a minute, I could make this way better. So you'll see all of that and I'll kind of explain it, but I'm out here with the beautiful lilacs that smell so fragrant. I wish you could inhale the fragrance with me. And it's, as you know, well, maybe you don't know because you could be watching this any time of the year, but it's springtime, middle of May. The lilacs bloom during that time here, and we really enjoy that. They don't last long. I bring them in the house and they even last less of a time than outside. But anyway, I came out here so I could just let you know what's going on, because I did do some of the process of what I did lately, and I'll show you some of the before things at the end, or maybe insert pictures, I don't know. But I didn't want to start with that because a lot of people just go to the end anyway to see what it looks like. So I think, anyway, I'm not sure, but that's what we're gonna do. All right, let's go see it. Okay, I'm just gonna show you around a little bit without talking, and then I'll go back over the details after that. Okay, let's go in. So this really is my dream room now, my fairy tale dream room. It is to the point where I could just sit in here and enjoy it and not work for a while, not do any creative thing. And of course, making it like this was creative, especially these last few weeks when I was doing all the fun things, not the so much the organizing of everything, which I will show you. It is not just pretty on the outside. I actually cleaned up the drawers and organized things, and that's really exciting too, because it's just so much nicer to use and be in here. It was nice before, but this is over the top for me. This is like it's just better. And it is funny how, oh, I don't know, it wasn't that it was bad before, but this is just better. And it's lovelier and pretty, prettier than before. And so I guess we'll just start. We'll start with this because this is really dear to me. I couldn't put this in the frame. Otherwise I'd have to take all these little nails behind the picture and try and put them back in, and that's too hard. So I taped it to just the outside of this framed print. But this is a drawing that my granddaughter drew for me for Mother's Day. She is quite the artist, and I just love it. So it is here, and then this is a bulletin board of some of my family and things on there, pictures. And all right, here it was a mess, and I'll try and insert something that showed it before. You can always go back to my other videos and watch the befores. So I'll just go over the outside of stuff, and then I'll go back in and show you what I did with the drawers. So I took away some of the sewing machine drawers that had similar things in it, these old or vintage, I should say, sewing things like seam binding and snaps and all of that, bias tape. And it looks much neater now. And then, as I said, I'll show you those drawers a little later. This is just mostly blanket binding here. And then I kind of made the bookshelf a little prettier. Up there, I didn't change it too much, but I rearranged some of those, put a different hat box up there, and the spools. Looks a little more tidier, I guess tidier, I don't know. So here, these were a big giant mess, both the clear one there, and I don't know what they call this type of drawer set, but the rolling cart. And those are all nice. And this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful pin cushion was made by my viewer friend Sonia. She did all of that work. The dry clay and everything. Isn't that beautiful? So that stays there, and I recovered these boxes. So all of those have things I've gathered for journals. The middle one is sewing, and the other two are just vintage and a lavender one. But I covered those with wallpaper. I can show you those a little more in depth later. Then what I had in this cart, which was, in my opinion before, was, it was fine. I dig through the mess, but they were on little cards, kind of, and some of them weren't. But I totally put them all on pretty cards that I covered with wallpaper. Now, you can't see them necessarily. Most all of them have those cards. There's a couple that don't. I didn't really change what's in here because you have to have one area that, at least one that you kind of go through without it being super neat, right? But then I put all these antique laces, vintage laces, on the cards with the wallpaper. Let's see if I can draw one up here that, has pretty wallpaper on it. And that sits right here, and hopefully I'll want to use it because it's so pretty. I might not. And I'm very sentimental, so I put things up I put items that people have given to me for display, so I can be reminded of them. And these two things Sonia gave me. The one is something she put as a tag on the card, and it's just so pretty. And then Beth gave me these two things here, another subscriber friend. And then I covered these with these boxes with wallpaper. They're actually something that had been given to me. They were okay looking, but they weren't exactly the style, my style. So I covered everything. This one I kind of decoupaged. I covered it fully, these, but this one I tore it on the edges and decoupaged the front and the back and the side. Most of the boxes you see either have, like these, have lace, or the smaller ones might have embellishments or tags and things like that. I've arranged my desk so that, of course, when I create, I don't have this on it, but I've arranged it so everything's nearby, and I won't necessarily make a big mess because it's close by. Who knows? I don't know. But here, when the sunlight comes through, I'm hoping for lots of rainbows on these chandelier prisms, but the crystal chandelier. So I've hung those on chains. And I added some trim up there with the old linens, or the vintage linens. I guess old isn't that lovely of a sounding word, but they're older. The only thing I can't, I want everything pretty and all that, including my mouse that I prettied up. It was black and red. It just didn't go. Oh, my daughter made me this. She's a teacher at a school, 5th grade, and they were making these for their mothers. She was helping them make, for Mother's Day, these books. And they talk about, you're supposed to put in here what your mother is like and everything. Well, she decided to go along to do one herself for me, as they made them, and it's just precious. I just love it. Just to read those words that she said in there. Oh my goodness. So then here we have the glue, and I even painted this one. I might have to keep putting glue in there to make it, you know, so I can keep it pink. But that's the glue station there. I can't do anything about the monitor. You're just gonna have to be. Over here, basket of my pretty antique fabrics. This is like my favorite fabric right here. I don't know if you can see it. Whoops. And then in here are just some pretty things. I just want to make pretty things. So these are little tag I made. The ribbon and lace was given to me by Sonia. There's some old rickrack, vintage rickrack. Some more of the lace cards and seam binding on this shelf. Tiny, tiny pair of gloves. Let's see if I can do this without messing up the whole thing. With those adorable buttons there. They're just little, like a toddler size, I think. Maybe 4 years old, I don't know. But some button cards that I made. Let's see, I'm going to move this so I can get in a little closer. And I can't do anything about the printer being there either, but it's okay. You got to have functional things. Well, not that things aren't functional, but you know what I mean. They can be pretty and functional, which is something I've always thought about, how they used to make things really beautiful. Now they really don't, just like the sewing machines and the wood cook stoves. They're beautiful, but everything they make now that's for utility, they just don't make them so beautiful anymore. There are some companies that do that, but they're very expensive. So there's a little doll there that I fixed up. And I made this. It's a Mother's Day in honor of mothers and my mother. And then my daughter made this sign for me a number of years back when I was selling vintage, at vintage sales, like flea markets, Paris flea market, that kind of thing. It was Hope and Grace Tree Cottage. So she made that, and the banner above the closet, which I'll show you in a minute, for those who haven't seen it. And she also made this sign for me. And my son gave me the little angel there. This is a beautiful satin rose and old measuring tape. And there's my candle warmer thing for scent. I covered that lampshade and painted the lamp. It's been in there a while, but and just little things to do with sewing. There's an old hat back there, the black one. Another doll that I dressed. This is a beautiful print of roses that were my roses that kind of were wilting a little. Very old antique lace. The beige lace there. Another hat. Some group of scissors. And then over here we have a old sewing machine drawer, a Singer sewing machine drawer of laces and little doilies that I can just take this over to the table, the whole thing. I mean, my desk, not table, and use those as I'm making something. I recovered this, or covered it, I should say, with the antique wallpaper. And in here is more lace on smaller cards. Again, I can take this over to the desk and use it as necessary, as I want to. And then here's some hat pins and an old bottle with dried flowers. More hat pins. A pearl collar. And then put some of the jewelry that I use on there. And this too came from Sonia. And then there's just a few odds and ends in there. It's hard to, let's see, I'll open it now because we're here. So there's little jars of buttons and there's this embellishment there. Someday I might be brave enough to use on a journal. This, see if I can do this without shadows or glares. Hard to do, but these are very old, tiny paper doll dresses and paper dolls in there that have been framed. And I had the Paris oil painting up there without a frame, just the canvas, and I decided, you know, that's sort of overpowering everything. So I had this print, or I don't know what you would call it, kind of a print, but not really. And then I have one like it that's darker in the dining area. But I like this much better. It goes better and just doesn't overpower like the other thing did. The other canvas. Another sewing machine drawer with some book pages and tags. Some of my paper. I covered another very large. Same thing as over there. And these have more papers in it. And then here I keep some embellishments. This cedar box. And there's all my old, you're just going to hear old, I think. I can't help it. There's my ledgers and just books that have really antique type things in them. Recipe book. Some of the covers I intend to use for journals. And in here is this basket, vintage cards and postcards, some piano paper. That's just for looks up here. I don't really have anything in that box, and I made that little heart, and that's my mom and me. And more just ephemera, things that I can put in, make tags or put in journals. And over here, I just love this because it's like walking into, I don't know, into a store with all these darling little dresses. And I've had them put away, and I thought, what in the world am I doing? Why don't I do this? I mean, it came to me to, well, it didn't really just come, part of it was the video I made when I saw if you saw the video with Raggedy Ann and Beatrix Potter, Charlene, the owner of the home, she had some of her little dresses hung up in her Beatrix Potter room, and then I thought of the dresses because it was like, wow, I don't have to look at a blank wall. And up there, everything's pretty much coordinated with the boxes there too. But one of these days I'll go in more depth about these dresses if you want to see those and some other vintage things that I have, like that go along with that, dresses and a few, I don't have too many, but hats. So over here is more lace. I had this already. It actually was a little box that some drawer lining came in, and I've had that around and not really do anything with it. And then I had these narrow laces, so I thought, well, I could do that. And that's what I did. And then rolled the ribbon on those spools with more cards covered in wallpaper with lace wrapped around them. Oops. And I like how that is very much. And the before wasn't so pretty over here. I thought it was convenient and everything, but my whole idea was to have this to have this all fabric that I would use for snippet rolls, and the fabric was all in the sewing machine drawers, more of them. So there's just a little bit of fabric there now. But what I did was I took all the snippet roll things, fabric and all that, and put them in a separate container, and I put them in a different room that I store things in. And when I want to make snippet rolls, I'll bring that out and make it, so I don't have to have that sitting out all the time. What was I thinking? So here is the trim, and I can still put a lot on here because this little item here, it's got a real pretty thing on the bottom there. I found, and you know, if you've watched my channel, I think I've said this before, but I like to buy things used and not for very much money. And I paid up on this little iron thing. I paid $5. My idea is get it for $1 or something, but inflation has affected yard sales too, or whatever, or well, whatever, high prices, whatever it is going on. So the trim, and mostly trim and different laces, not really the antique ones, but these are older trims, and these are all, when I want to trim, I can come and pick something here. I love it. I love this, you know, the way it's looks, and also how I can access it. And then I have a very meaningful mug here that my friend Eileen made me a few years back as a birthday present, and on it she wrote all the meaningful things, like trips we've gone to a few times together, and the things that she likes about me and knows things about the Lord, like what my favorite hymn is and Bible verse, things like that. It's very meaningful to me. So rather than chance drinking out of it and breaking it, it's sitting there, and I can see it every day. I have 2 sewing machines here, and you wonder why. Well, I do too. But I did have a black sewing machine that was like from the 50s, but I took it out because the plate was loose and it wouldn't stay on. It just wouldn't work. So I, got rid of that idea. And then this sewing machine was on the floor by my desk, and I picked it up, and somehow this spool thing broke, so that was not good. Broke in half. My husband tried to fix the machine. He got this back on because I ordered another one, but there were missing screws and a part that didn't go back on, so this machine didn't work. So I bought this one back here. Got it on Facebook Marketplace, of course. I wouldn't buy a brand new sewing machine, but they said they hadn't used it, which is, it's a very nice machine and it works well. And then I decided to get this one fixed by local guy that fixes sewing machines, and he even came to the house, and it really didn't cost too much. So now I have one for like black thread and white thread again, or just this one does certain things this one doesn't do. So anyway, that's that. And then I decided over here to just put all of my, well, I call them utility things, but the iron and the Gemini, and then my sewing machines. So everything's all in one area. And that's mostly what I did throughout this whole room, was to, of course, when you organize, you want to put like things with like things, but we don't always, know how to do that. Or I don't know if it's knowing how to do that, but if we have, I also had to take things out of here. Not a lot, but I had to not have certain things in so I could make room and make it organized. And so you have to do that too, of course. But it looks so much better when you just, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. You don't need to know how to explain it, I guess. Just have to do it and know that it looks better. So over here is this beautiful shabby chic mailbox that Sonia gave me for Christmas, and it's just gorgeous. I haven't put anything in it, but of course I could put some things in it, which I might do. I just don't want to forget that they're in there. This is something that's already been in here. I mean, I didn't change this, so to speak, just for decoration, and just added a sign there. Okay, I think I'm going to have to make this 2 parts. I didn't realize how long this was going to be, just doing this. So the other part, you might have me rambling a little bit as well, the second part, but it will be available right the same time period as when I upload this one. So you can go right to it and see. Maybe you don't want to do it the same day. You've had enough of it, but you could go back and see what I've done in the drawers, and so to make them better, organized. And what I will do in that one, I will show you I'll show you the befores in that video of the drawers and different things that I organized. I didn't really film anything about when I recovered the boxes. Sometimes filming just takes a lot out of me. And it's just not, I just want to get the project done too. So, but I do really love how this is looking, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will watch the part 2. I forgot to put the basket back up there, and that's another thing, is to realize that the way I have it now, I can have it neat most of the time. Of course, it won't be when I'm making a journal or something. It won't be totally neat ever when I'm making a journal, but it won't be chaos. So it's taken a while to get to this point, but I'm just very grateful that my brain decided to work in a way that it hadn't for a while. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but I thank you again for sticking with me, if you did that throughout this video. Okay, I'll see you in part 2.